Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Time Burner. This is the start of a new series. It's still Wargame. I had hopefully a long-term fan by the name of the Digital Aviator recommended that I do a review of the deck of my go-to decks in Wargame and kind of go over, you know, why I use which unit and just kind of a rundown of my deck. And so this is that, so that's a shout out to him. And then this is also just a way for me to kind of go over this because I thought about going through this before, but I didn't want to bore people. So knowing that there are people out there watching and would like to see this is is how I know that this would be beneficial to do. So once again, Digital Aviator, thank you for watching, and I hope that you stay tuned. So with that said, I'm going to get started. I'm not exactly sure how long the series is going to be. I'm shooting to keep it fairly short, and when I say fairly short, I'm saying maybe 5-6 videos, but we'll see. The way that I've been kind of experimenting, trying to explain how I'm going to do this, and I've decided that I'm going to try to go over two tabs is what I call them. I don't know if the official terminology for Wargame in terms of what a section or a tab. I'm going to call these tabs. So like logistics is a tab, infantry is a tab, support is a tab, etc., etc. I'm going to go through two tabs in detail, like basically kind of an overview of what each tab is designed to do, and then my units and why I pick them, and then maybe a quick example or two of how I implement the units that I picked. So this first video, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it, try to keep these videos under 30 minutes like always. We're going to jump into logistics, and infantry is the goal for these two videos. So let's go ahead and get started. This is my Eastern Bloc multi-role deck, as you can obviously in this title. If you don't know what that means or want a little bit more clarification, I play pretty much predominantly red 4. I plan on building a blue 4 deck probably towards the end of this series. That way I can show you guys how I would build from the ground up, build a deck. But this is my go-to deck. 99% of the time when I play online, this is the deck I'm using. So it's definitely refined, and it's definitely a solid all-around deck. It can pretty much tackle any situation that comes up. And that's why I call it the multi-role, is because there's no situation that this deck cannot handle. Is it going to be the perfect deck for every situation? No, but it can handle pretty much all situations. If there's a helicopter rush, I have plenty of AA, as you can see here. If it's a tank battle they want, I can give them a tank battle. I mean, it's a good multi-role deck. So without wasting any more time getting sidetracked, let's go ahead and jump into logistics. Okay, so logistics. Well, first off, what is the logistics tab? And what is the logistics tabs for? The logistics tab in all war games is basically, well, logistical supplies. So your weapon, your ammo, your fuel, health or repair parts, depending on how you want to look at it, and command and control. And so it's really it's not a very glamorous tab, but it's one of the most important tabs in the game. If you don't know how to use the logistics tab, then it's going to be hard battles ahead for you, because it really is that crucial. So I have selected the fob, and obviously you can't see it because if you've played Wargame before, the fob is actually a large structure. Like if you look at this little image up here, it's a very large structure. It holds about 16,000 liters of supplies, and so it's not going to obviously fit inside this little hangar for display. I'll just go ahead and get my command unit just so you can have something to look at while I'm talking. So basically a fob is the backbone of your supply base. It holds the bulk of your supplies, and it generally, depending on the size of the map and how long you plan on playing, some people play with just one fob, and then others play with multiple fobs because they go through that much supplies. And the only type of deck that I can think of is maybe an airborne. Lots of helicopters require lots of fuel, or a support deck with lots of artillery or rocket artillery that eats up supplies as well. So the fob is kind of an automatic. I believe that a good deck unless you're going, unless you're going into a lobby with friends that can support you, like pre-battle, you've already got an agreement like, hey, you're gonna help me stay supplied, and then I'm gonna focus on this. Unless you have that situation, I think that every deck needs a fob, because time and time again, I find that my teammates don't buy a fob in the beginning stages of the game, and then halfway through they're siphoning out of my supplies, which I'm fine with because we're on a team. But it does suck when I go back to resupply my units and my fob's half empty because somebody pulled up their MLRS next to my fob and basically are just draining supplies. So with that said, my next unit is the MI6, and this helicopter is a beast, but this is pretty much the Blue 4 has like the Chinook as I think that's their biggest cargo chopper. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. This is basically the Red Force Chinook. This is as big as you can get. It holds 37,000 liters of supplies. It's massive. And I'm actually going to explain how I use this in battle, but first I've got to skip to the next unit, and it'll make sense once I talk about it. Or once I explain the next vehicle, the MI6 will make sense. So the next vehicle after the MI6 is the T815 Kolos. This is just this is the backbone of your logistical supplies, a ground vehicle that you can send to the front, unload supplies, bring it back to the fob, load it back up, send it back out to the front. This is the backbone of your supplies. It's really that crucial. Now, what I like to do, especially on larger maps, is I'll take this Kolos, I'm not Czechoslovakian, so I'm probably butchering the terms. And if I do, forgive me. I'm just I don't speak Eastern European languages, so I'm just gonna butcher the names. But basically, the Kolos, I use this as obviously it's the cheapest supply vehicle I have, but I also like to use it as a shuttle between my MI6 and the front line. So I'll take the MI6, land it about halfway between my fob and the front line, and then use the Koloses to go back and forth between the MI6 so that they don't have to drive as far and it doesn't take as long to resupply my front line. But then once my MI6s run out of supplies, I fly them back to the fob, and then I can keep the Koloses on the front line until they're out, and then I can rally up with the MI6 halfway. And that's for me, that works really, really well. It saves me a lot of time, and it's a lot less micromanaging, because if I forget to send my unit back to the front line out of supplies, and sometimes I do that. This game's all about micromanaging, but if I forget, when I finally realize that my guys need supplies, my supply vehicles are never that far away, rather than having them just stuck at a fob sitting there. So really, it's that shuttle system works really well for me. The last unit that I'm going to cover here in the logistics tab is my command infantry. This is the only command vehicle that I have, and so what a command vehicle does is it allows you to capture command zones, and command zones can either give you points so you can buy more units, or it can allow you to call in more ground units or air units depending on the type of command zone it is. And some command zones can let you call in more units and give you points, so it really is important. It's beneficial that you obviously capture command points. But I'm not. That's a basic concept. If you don't understand how the command zones and things like that and command vehicles work, there's videos out there, or just hop in a game and hop in a a private server and just tinker around a little bit. I'm not going to go into detail in explaining how the command capturing actually works, but basically, more or less, these guys are as cheap as I can find. They're infantry. I like the infantry commands because they're easy to hide. They're great at hiding in the woods. They're great at hiding in buildings. As long as you don't get them spotted, as long as the enemy can't find these guys and target them with artillery, these guys are extremely hard to kill. But once they're spotted and once the enemy has eyes on them, they're pretty much dead. I mean, as soon as an enemy sees them, they're willing to waste 150 point aircraft to kill a command vehicle or a command unit. So you definitely need to hide these guys really, really well. Okay, so since this tab's done, I'm going to go ahead and jump into infantry, because infantry, A, it's going to take a while, and B, infantry is by far the most important tab, in my opinion, one of the most important, if not the most important tab in Wargame, in all the franchises, especially Red Dragon. So basically, your infantry is the backbone of every military that ever existed. So same thing happens in Wargame. As you can see, I've got a full tab, as much as I can purchase. I'm going to start with my line infantry and then work my way up to my more specialized troops. So first off, my line infantry, the Piocha Zmech in a BMP2. So why did I pick these guys, and why do I like them? Well, they're pretty much run-of-the-mill infantry. So the infantry, they're not really anything special. They're just your basic 10-point ground infantry. You know, they've got an RPG-7, so they can take out tanks and light armor at short ranges. They've got a light machine gun for medium engagement distances with the infantry, and then they have a close quarters weapon, which is the AKM. Very basic and straightforward. Now for their vehicle, the vehicle is, I think, probably the more important thing to talk about with these guys. I picked the BMP2 because for two reasons. A, it has this anti-tank missile that you see on the top here, and it's kind of weird. I can't select it and then move my mouse away, so I'm gonna have to hover over the top here just to keep the stats up on the right hand side. But if you look, I've got a Conquer's anti-tank missile on the roof. It only has 3 missiles, which kind of sucks, but it's powerful enough that if it does get a hit, it's gonna pretty much kill any vehicle that it touches, other than heavy main battle tanks. But really, that's the second reason why I picked them. The first and foremost, is the main gun, which is that 2A42, I believe. Basically, it is a autocannon, similar to the Bradley for the Americans. It's a 30 millimeter autocannon. It can engage ground and light armor very effectively and destroy them quickly. I don't want to say like super fast or anything like that, but at a steady pace, they can engage and kill light armor. But they can also engage helicopters. Now, I say that, and I don't want people to think that you can go out and find and hunt down helicopters with these things, because you can't. Why I mention that, though, is that if enemy helicopters happen to sneak up on my troops, as a last-ditch effort, these autocannons can potentially stun and even down helicopters. Is it going to down an Apache? Probably not. But an enemy recon that happens to get a little too close, this thing will definitely kill them. Especially if you have 2 or 3 or 2 or more grouped up in a close area, the combined firepower can definitely take out helicopters pretty quickly. Okay, and just another side note, these guys are amphibious. Make sure that you at least have some infantry. I highly recommend that your line infantry, your most basic infantry, have an amphibious vehicle, because you never know when you're going to need to do a flank it through, over a river, or across the sea. There's been so many times where I've been thankful that I try to pick units that are as multi-purpose as possible. So these vehicles they're okay vehicles. They can hold their own in terms of light armor. And they're amphibious. They carry troops. They have potent firepower within realistic aspect. It has potent firepower. Just all around good vehicle, and it's not really that expensive. 20 points. That's pretty cheap. So my next step up the food chain, I guess you could say, are these guys. I guess they're Grana Tomit AGS-17s. Basically, why I picked these guys. These guys are considered fire support in Wargame, and the beauty of these guys is, if you look over here at the stats, yes, you read that right. That is a grenade launcher. These guys, once they're stationary, and once they stop moving, they actually employ this belt-fed grenade launcher. And so, why is that something? Why do you care? Well, the grenade launcher is probably one of the most effective infantry versus infantry weapons, other than like the flamethrowers. I think second to the flamethrowers probably, This thing is devastating because, look, first off, it's got a good range. It's got further range than pretty much any infantry with uh, any infantry's primary weapon. It's got better range. I mean, there might be a few odd infantry units out there that have 1,000+ range for their primary weapon, but I doubt it. So these guys can engage infantry at further ranges, but they can stun infantry very quickly, especially even the most elite troops like special forces. These guys are great at killing special forces because people don't recognize, and this is what I found, is that blue players playing as blue 4 will send infantry after these guys, like across the field or through a woods or something like that, and I'll have them spotted with recon so I can see where they're coming from. I will get these guys set up in a defensive position, and then these guys can basically stun and kill almost any infantry before they even get within any real danger of getting engaged themselves. It's fantastic. People completely underestimate fire support as a infantry class, and I highly recommend, highly recommend that you check them out for your respective decks. But you know, grenade launchers, great at killing other infantry, but that's pretty much it. Other than super light armor, like light skin vehicles, technicals, that kind of thing, it's not gonna kill tanks. Don't even try. But light armor and infantry, these things are great killers. Okay, so then the next step up, this is kind of, if you consider my main infantry is level 1, my fire support infantry that I just covered is level 2. The Conqueror's M and the Grom are both level 3. Okay, so what I would consider level 3. These Conqueror's M are my go-to anti-tank infantry. They have a long-range Conqueror's M missile, 2,600 meters at a 50% accuracy. It's not the best accuracy, but it's definitely solid accuracy. These guys are great at, well, killing tanks. They have great high AP power, which is very effective against even the most heavy of battle tanks. Just, you know, these guys are designed specifically to kill tanks, and that's about it. They're not good against infantry. As you can see why, it's just 2 dudes, and that's pretty much it. They're just tank hunters. That's what these guys are designed to do. Same thing with the Grom, the PPZR Grom. And sorry if I'm moving fast. Just let me know in the comments if I'm moving too fast, or if I'm skipping over or missing content that you guys would like me to go over. So yeah, just post it in the comments and I'll read it, and I'll definitely make sure I adjust my later videos. But back on topic, the PPZR Grom. These guys are in the same kind of the description I gave. These are still level 3. I would consider these guys as level 3 infantry for me. But these guys, instead of trying to kill tanks, these guys kill aircraft with the Grom missile. It looks like it's modeled after the Igla, so I don't know if in real life if the Grom is just the Polish version of the Igla, or if the Grom is a specially designed Polish anti-air missile. I'm not really sure. That's something that I could probably research, or somebody could leave in the comments and let me know. But it's got 2,600 meter range. It's got 60% accuracy, again, or 2,600 meters against helicopters, 2,100 against airplanes, and it's got 60% accuracy. Having several of these bunched up in a tight area, they can be very effective. But on their own, very rarely will they shoot something down on their own. Excuse me. Ugh. So I definitely bunch these guys up in groups of 2s generally, unless I'm at a very tight budget and like a very low budget game. I'll send these out as individual units, but generally I'll group them in 2s because, well, 2 is 1, 1 is none, as the military saying goes. Now, something that's a little bit more special about these, and I know I haven't really covered the vehicles in some of these other classes because they're pretty basic. They have pretty basic, like this one back here does have anti-tank missiles on it, but they're not even really that accurate. I mean, I very rarely see these things get hits, so I'm not even going to talk about them. They're more for shock and awe than they are actually killing units. So now this thing right here, as you can see, this is a pretty funky vehicle. This is a APC but it also has an anti-aircraft gun on it. This is a Zu-23-2, and I like this combination because not only is it fairly cheap, it's at 35 points, but it allows me to make a fairly convincing AA position. Again, this vehicle, is it going to kill a helicopter left and right? No, it's not. Very rarely will I see this thing kill an aircraft. But what it does is it puts the fear of God in Blue 4, because you got to remember, they're trying to find your recon, and if you pay attention, the game tells you whether or not your units have been spotted. So as long as you're paying attention, the enemy, when they see this gun fire up, they don't know that this thing's inaccurate. They just see a bunch of bullets coming from a wood line at their aircraft, and they're going to be spamming that right click trying to get that unit out of that area. So combine these guys with the firepower of this makes a very convincing AA position, even though you've only spent 35 points. Again, it's amphibious. I believe it's yes, it is amphibious. So I can cross rivers and oceans and all that good stuff. But just it's a really effective and surprisingly convincing combination. Okay, so we're gonna move on to tier 4. This is my top of the line infantry because, well, these guys are special forces. They're top of the line. These guys are the East German LSTR 40s. Why did I pick these guys? Well, first off, I picked the helicopter version of them because I wanted them to be highly mobile. If I'm calling out special forces, it's usually for a special mission. You don't call out your special forces for line infantry. Now, some games have high enough points that you can, but generally you don't. So you call out these guys just for like command hunting or killing enemy artillery. You know, those types of kind of high-end missions that you wouldn't want to try to send your regular infantry to do. So I put them in a helicopter for high mobility. Now, why did I pick these guys in particular? Well, these guys, they've got just a basic assault rifle, so there's nothing great there. But the big point, or the big draw to these guys is the weapons. They've got, not only do they have an RPG-29, but they also have an IGLA, so they have anti-tank and anti-air capability. And to me, that is so important, so very important. Just think about it for a second. AA and AT capability. It's a great combination, especially when you're elite troop. Your training is elite, so these guys are very accurate. And if you look, the RPG-29 has 70% accuracy. Although it only has 6 shots, these rockets these rockets are extremely deadly. They pretty much will kill anything one shot, other than the heaviest of main battle tanks. I'm talking like Abram M1A2s, Leopard 2A5s, Challenger Mark, whatever the high-end Challengers are. I can't think of it right now. But this rocket launcher is extremely potent against armor. If it sneaks up on a command vehicle or an artillery piece, one rocket's going to kill it for sure, let alone a heavy tank. And then next up is the IGLA. The IGLA is anti-air. Is it going to be the most accurate? Not really. But if it sneaks up on a helicopter that's, let's just say, that's on the ground, you sneak up next to it and it starts to take off, you turn on your weapons. The IGLA, usually it'll probably shoot off all 4 of them trying to get a kill, but it can definitely take out an enemy aircraft, or take out an enemy helicopter. Very rarely will it be able to take out a high-flying aircraft, but helicopters on the ground or near the ground, these guys can definitely kill them. And that pretty much wraps it up for my my infantry tab. This video is already closing in on the 25-minute mark. So please let me know, comment, like, subscribe. Tell me what I did right, tell me what I did wrong, and I'll make changes along the way. My next video is going to be the support tab and the tank tab, or the armored tab. And these, again, this will probably be another 25+ minute video, simply because it's such an important. These 2 tabs are so important, just like the infantry and the logistics are. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I really appreciate you guys watching, and again, one more shout out the Digital Aviator. I really appreciate your comments. I love seeing that you took interest in my videos and you like what I had to say and want to see more. So please comment. Let me know what you thought about this video, and I'll definitely make sure that I keep them coming. Alright, so this is Time Burner, guys. Deuces.